What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Color.
We're here, as per usual.
Mm-hmm.
Another day, another crime, another story to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have anything crazy to talk about.
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, what's that?
Brian Koberger announced that there is an accomplice.
Okay, but
I'm pretty sure.
Dad actually said he looked into that, and it did not say that he said there was an accomplice. What he actually said was that he was not responsible. Somebody else was.
But, okay, I guess accomplice was the wrong word. He name dropped somebody.
Oh, I haven't looked into it.
They have not released it, but what I have seen is that they have he has name dropped somebody, but they haven't like released it to the public. And then on, which we all know, TikTok, right? I know. But when I was on TikTok the other day, because now that I saw the one thing about the Brian Koberger, I get everything about Brian Koberger. What I heard is... Wow, that was so fake. Brian Koberger in the Idaho 4 murder, he has supposedly, they have not released it to the public of who it is, but supposedly he has name dropped somebody as like the person that did it.
So my question with this is, if that's true, how does he have the knowledge of that? And
so
why
here's
did he
the other
take
thing.
so fucking long to tell somebody?
First of all, this whole fucking case,
it's bullshit. And I'm not saying bullshit as in he's innocent. I'm saying bullshit.
But like how they're handling it and not.
It has been botched so fucking bad by the police and the investigators.
And the fact that they're not
100%.
releasing like everything
the gag
to the public.
order, the whole thing.
Because here's the thing. So on TikTok, I have seen multiple videos. Supposedly, granted, again, I'm kind of sitting there going, I know people leak shit, but how the fuck has this gone to the public if it's not supposed to be to the public? Supposedly, there's a video of them in the courtroom, the judge, the prosecutors, everybody, saying that they have the knife, which they have not released, and said that they don't actually have the knife. And so people are coming out going, if they really have the knife, that's like a huge fucking turning point in the case.
I agree with you. I've never heard them saying the knife. As a matter of fact, all I've ever heard is that they found his partial fingerprint. Right.
And I've heard that within like the past like 2 days. Yeah, like it's recent shit.
And again, because they've gagged this whole entire case, it's like you don't even know what to believe. And it bothers me so much because in my personal opinion, when something of this nature happens and you have somebody on trial for it, I absolutely think it is due diligence to the public, especially the people who are living in the Pullman and Moscow area, that you got the right guy.
It just doesn't make sense. It's never made sense to me why a crime happens and not everything is public knowledge. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's like, what's first of all, you fucked up, my guy. I don't give a fuck I give a fuck what you did, but like, I don't give a fuck what you did, but you fucked up. So for the safety of myself and others, right, we should be able to know what the fuck you did, how you did it, where you did it, and the detail. Like I'm not saying like nitty gritty detail. Like I would love that.
The most basic information though, because again, you want to make sure, what if this, I mean, I understand that this happened a while ago and there has not been any other murders like that. I understand it. However, that doesn't mean, I mean, what if they did really, truly, playing devil's advocate here, what if they really did have the wrong guy and the person who really was responsible for this moved away and went to another city or another town or another country and is going to do the same thing? It's not unheard of. So that's why to me it's like safety. But also, after you've arrested him, there's still a gag order on everything. And part of it, I understand, is to try to give him a fair trial, which he deserves because that is one of the rights of this country. But a fair trial doesn't mean you have to gag order the whole goddamn trial. I feel like, I mean...
Well, I just don't understand, like, if you're going to release the information within the courtroom, as soon as that's released, then why don't you just release that information to the public? Because they still haven't even done that.
Look at the Diddy trials. Those are going on right now, and every day, they're not publicized. You can't... They don't have cameras in there, but what they do have is reporters in there, and they come out after the days, and they report everything that they saw, heard, the testimonies, what's coming up next, because it's not... I mean, this was a national... news. This was nationally covered. And why was it nationally covered? Because they wanted help finding the person.
Because also, for those of you that don't know, he wasn't even fucking arrested in Idaho.
No, he was followed to wherever the fuck
he was like across the damn country.
Yeah, he was on the East Coast. And the thing is, if he's the one that did it, great. But the reason why this shit got national coverage is because they wanted it national coverage.
Right.
Because they wanted help finding him. And then when you find him, now it's like, hush, hush, don't say anything. Yeah. I mean, I understand that there's rules and laws, but it's pretty unfair. And again, this case, being that I'm an adult, being that I literally study true crimes for fun and for a living, I think there's something very much telling that there's something not right here.
Well, and it's close to home because we know somebody who lives in Moscow, Idaho.
Exactly.
So it's like, what the fuck?
And I actually personally, and so do you, Sierra, you actually know somebody who also went to WSU Pullman.
Yeah.
And we also know people.
Actually, I think we also had somebody that went to U of I.
Yes, we did. So multiple people. I know multiple people at U of I. I know multiple people at WSU. Being that we live in Washington.
I mean, that alone is so close to home.
And my son graduating, when he graduated, there was a whole handful of people that went to WSU that he personally was friends with. So to know that you have that close of a connection.
And for those of you who don't know, WSU Pullman and University of Idaho, literally it's like less than a 5-minute drive.
Yeah, that's why. Well, that's
literally you go boop. Boop.
Right. That's why it was like you have two college campuses.
I think he technically lived in Pullman.
He
lived in Pullman, but he
lived in the dorms at WSU.
U of I.
He lived at the dorms in WSU.
I thought he went to U of I.
No, he was a master's degree student in criminology. He had a bachelor's degree in psychology and was getting a master's in criminology, and he was at WSU. And so it's one of those things where, you know, this is a scenario that I just feel like there was a lot of botched shit going on. And I think whether it's either they don't believe they have the right guy, but they want to just kind of play it off like it is, or maybe they think they have the right guy, but they feel like the evidence isn't
they
quite
destroyed
there.
The house.
And that's just it. The destroying the house is the one thing that really got me. So what we are actually talking about today is we're talking about the year 1999. And this was in London, England. And during this time, there were 3 consecutive weekends that nail bombs were detonated. And these were actually referred to as the London nail bombs. And a man named David Copeland is actually held responsible. So we're going to talk about David Copeland. Now, a little background. So David Copeland was born May 15th, 1976 in Hanworth in the London borough of Hounslow. I love that. I just love the names.
Sounds like Harry Potter.
That's why I love it, because I'm like, I feel like I could just be like, I'm you know what? We are probably so offensive to people in the United Kingdom because we always, I think most Americans probably compare.
But you know how many people from other countries are probably making fun of us?
No,
Americans?
I'm not making. No, listen,
them.
I'm not making fun of the UK. I love Harry Potter, so it's like I do feel like that. Anyways, he was born into a working class family. Now, his father was an engine driver, as in somebody who drives trains, and his mother was a housewife, so she stayed at home, took care of the family. Now, he lived majority of his life with his family, including his 2 brothers in Yateley in Hampshire. He ends up attending school while living in Yateley, and he ends up leaving school in 1992. And by leaving school, I actually think it means he did not completely finish school. Like he just bounced out. Now, when David was a young teenager, he was actually really worried about becoming a homosexual. He actually was worried that he was going to become a homosexual as he grew older. And his reasoning was because his parents would sing the theme song from the Flintstones, of the part where it's like, we'll have a gay old time. You know that part of the Flintstones song? Like Flintstones, you know what I'm talking about?
Bitch, I've never seen the Flintstones. So I know who the Flintstones are, but I've never fucking seen the Flintstones.
I'm dead right now.
So I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you kidding me? I'm like speechless right now.
You're my mom, so you're welcome.
You don't know the theme song of the Flintstones?
No.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones.
Stop. That's the only part I know.
Okay, well, in that song,
that's the only part.
At the end, it says, we'll have a gay old time. That's what it says in the end, right? That's what it says. And for those of you that don't know, back in the day, the word gay old time was like fun, have a good old time. Like
it wasn't a derogatory term.
No,
like
it wasn't.
People made it now.
It wasn't. And so his parents would sing that to them, like him and his brothers. And he actually felt that his parents were sending him like subliminal messages to become gay. Okay, so you can tell right now that already there's something very wrong, probably not, or not very wrong, but probably not right in brain.
Listen, the part that's weird as fuck is the fact that they were singing the Flintstones theme song.
Not for the not for like the 80s. The Flintstones was the shit. Like my sister
You're just singing it for fun?
Yeah, it was like a catchy tune. And my sister and my brother and I, we used to literally watch. There's a Flintstones Christmas that we would watch all the time. And then we'd watch them always.
Add that to our Christmas list.
We'd watch them like every Saturday. Every Saturday morning cartoon was Flintstones as well. And it's a yabba dabba do time, let me tell you. Anyway, so that's kind of where it is. Now, most people who knew him as a child actually said that he was bright and he was like a super happy kid. So they were kind of shocked when this all comes into fruition. Now, according to David, when he was 12 years old, he actually started having sadomasochist dreams. Now, these dreams included that he was being reincarnated as an SS officer. For those of you who do not know what an SS officer is, it's an officer under the Schutzstaffel, which was a major paramilitary organization under Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. So he was having dreams that he was reincarnated as a Nazi soldier, basically, and that he would have access.
That's a shitty dream.
But he liked it. Sadomasochism. And he would have access to women slaves in his dreams at the age of 12. He was having these dreams.
So sexual sadist?
Not necessarily sexual sadism, but he was having different types of dreams like that. Now, as an older teenager, he discovers heavy metal and he listens to it very frequently. And it actually earned him the nickname Mr. Angry, which, I mean, I guess I could see it. I mean, heavy metal, whatever.
Screamo.
Now, it is also noted that during this time, people like his teachers said that they actually don't really remember him from that age, like during that age. He didn't stand out to them. And they said it's literally like he disappeared, which is weird because they would ask him like, oh, well, as a teenager, how was he? Same teachers who knew him as a child. And they'd be like, now that you say that, I don't remember him being around as a teenager. It's like he disappeared. He was there, but he just like, what did he do?
He was like in the corner.
Exactly.
He hid in the corner. He hid in the shadows.
He was just withdrawn.
He secluded himself.
Yeah, he did. Now, when he was 19, his parents actually get divorced. And this is actually the time that he really, really starts to struggle with life. So he ends up isolating himself even more than he already had started. And he just decides he's going to do his own thing, live on his own, do his own thing. Now, this ends up leading to him having a ton of failed jobs, not being able to kind of keep his shit together. And this leads him to blame immigrants in the UK for why the jobs were so hard to find and keep. So he takes the fact that he's a job failure onto the immigration issues in the UK at the time.
Okay.
So David then goes on and he starts to abuse drugs. He starts to drink heavily and he actually turns to petty crime to try to live his life. Now, he does eventually get a job through his father as an engineer's assistant on the London Underground Railroad. Because remember, his dad was a train driver. Mm-hmm. So he actually gets a job working at the same place as a engineer's assistant. In 1997, at the age of 21, David joins the British National Party, which was, and I think still is to this day, considered a far-right group. Now, during this time that he's in this group, he actually reads books like the Turner Diaries. Now, the thing about the Turner Diaries I'm not going to go into it because I don't give a shit about politics like that. But the Turner Diaries has been known to persuade people to view things a specific way. It is believed that this is kind of part of what happened to him, basically. Now, he learns also, after reading through the Turner Diaries, he also learns that how to make bombs using fireworks and alarm clocks as timers. And he actually learned this by downloading the Anarchist Cookbook that is available online.
Oh,
I don't know why the fuck it's available online, but that's what he found.
Click the link. Not literally. We won't have one.
No, we will not. Now, in 1998, David actually leaves the British National Party. Now, his reason for leaving the British National Party is because he was really not angry, but he was upset because the BNP, as they were nicknamed, the BNP had a hard stop on how much action they would take for political purposes, right? So their hard stop is they didn't want to engage in crazy amounts of paramilitary action. They didn't want, to do a bunch of things like violence. They did do some violence, that is true, but not to the extent of what he wanted. So he was like, fuck you guys. You don't do enough for me. So he leaves. What he actually wanted was his big thing that he wanted from the BNP was he wanted them to actually take physical violent action against immigration, like immigrants, not immigration. I mean, against immigration, but at the hands of hurting immigrants. And so he was upset because they were like, absolutely not. So what he does is he leaves them and he actually joins a much smaller political group that was the National Socialist Movement. And while he's in this really small group of people, he actually becomes one of their regional leaders for the Hampshire area. Now, around the same time, he's actually also prescribed antidepressants after he tells his doctor that he feels like he's losing his mind. Now, it is really important before we get into anything else to note that David is, and has extremist views. He hated anyone that was of an ethnic minority. He hated immigrants and he hated the LGBTQ plus community. He also
basically, if you're not white, you're fucked.
Yes, he hates you. He also believed in racial purity and he wanted to incite a race war. Okay, so I want to make that very clear before we go into this. He was an extremist and he would be considered a terrorist if he was, no matter what country he's in, he would be considered a terrorist. And he was a white nationalist and he was an extremist. On April 17th, 1999, Electric Avenue in Brixton. Now, this is an area of South London with a very large black population. There is a black bag that is found in the Brixton market. Now, I do say large black population, but I did watch a documentary on this and they actually interviewed people who were there the day that this bomb exploded. And it was white people and black people. And they all said that this area, while it was a predominantly black area, it was an area where all people were welcome and people got along. So this isn't like some weird like race. There's not like a line in the sand that you can't be there.
Dumb.
Right. They were saying like this was an area where
everybody's
people, people all came together. So something
there wasn't hate.
Something happening like this in this area would have been very unsuspected.
Rock the fucking
right?
community.
Right. Now, there was a trader's market, is basically like a farmer's market.
I was going to say like a Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's. No, it was like a farmer's market. They found this suspicious black bag sitting like on the ground. And this woman, she like walks up to the bag and she actually was like, she was one of the vendors. And she was like, it was really weird because I was sitting there and I kept thinking like I was hearing a ticking sound and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And she goes, and then I see this bag and she goes, and I got close to it and I was like, this bag has a ticking sound coming from it. And so then some other people who were there also as not bystanders, but people who were there shopping whatever. And a few other people who had trading booths had also were like, what the fuck? And so there was actually somebody who opened the bag. Like there was these two like guys, they like walked up and they're like, what is this? And they opened the bag and one of them looks inside of it and they interviewed this guy. He lived, by the way, but they interviewed this guy particularly. And he was like, I literally looked in the bag. I stopped and I looked up at my friend and said, you'll never believe it, but I think that's a bomb. And then he said, and then I looked at my friend and I go, is that a bomb? And so the other guy looks and he goes, that's a fucking bomb, right? That's what they said. So they put the bag down. Okay. They put it down because they were like, what the fuck? Now they were like, there's no fucking way. Then they said, and then they continue it's hilarious to watch this documentary because the guys specifically for this bomb are hilarious when they're talking. He's like, then you'll never fucking believe. He said, this crackhead literally comes over, grabs the bag. And we're like, no, don't touch it. That's a bomb. And takes the bag and walks away with it. And then all of a sudden he looks in the bag, grabs the actual bomb out of the bag and walks off with the bomb in his hands. But he's like, he was so cracked out. He didn't know what he was doing. In total.
Hold on. At no point has anybody tried to contact the police.
So when they,
everybody's just like, there's just a bomb. The fuck?
I was gonna get there.
Like, what?
I was gonna get there. So in actuality, the bomb was moved a total of 3 different times by unsuspecting people because first it was moved by people who saw this bag and they just went and set it somewhere. And then at the final stage, it was the dude who just grabbed the actual bomb and left the bag.
I mean, clearly times have changed because nowadays if you see what do they say at the airport? What
is it?
I want to like unobtained, but it's not.
No.
It's like,
oh my God, what is
that word? Unattended.
Yeah, an unattended bag.
Because I know like when you go to the airport and even not in the airport, I still do this. If I see an unattended bag, luggage, fucking garbage bag. Yeah, I'm going in the opposite direction.
Do you remember,
I'm not going to go investigate that shit.
Do you remember coming back from Disneyland? The last time we came back from Disneyland, remember there was an unattended bag and they called out over the intercom like 3 times. And then remember the security guards came and took the bag away. Remember that?
Yeah. I also remember how I played softball and I definitely left the speaker at the airport. So they probably called about a bomb for that.
Oh, I'm sure they probably did.
We were long gone after that. It's fine.
So yeah, overall, the bomb was moved 3 times. Now, the woman who had heard the ticking of the bomb actually starts telling people, like, call the police. There is a bomb, and that guy just took off with it. So they're waiting for the police to come, and that's when the crackhead shows up. So they had already actually called the police. Okay, they had already called it, and then that crackhead guy comes up. He grabs this bomb, and they're like, no, don't take it. And sure as fuck, he walks off with it. Well, as he takes the bomb out of the bag and starts to walk off with it, the bomb detonates. And this was at 5:25 p.m. The bomb blows up. 48 people were injured. This actually included a 1-year-old child with a nail embedded in their skull.
God damn.
Many of the people were seriously injured. And it's because the bombs were made with it was a bomb, and then around the bomb it was packed with 4-inch nails completely surrounding the bomb. So the bomb would explode and then it would shoot out these 4-inch nails. According to the documentary, they were talking to somebody who was talking about the bombs, and the guy had said, like, these bombs were not made to injure people, these bombs were made to kill people, because of the fact that there were so many nails packed around it, and because they were 4-inch nails, it wasn't to just like do a little damage, it was to shred the shit out of whoever it hit.
Right. Well, now, it's an easy way to make sure somebody dies. If
exactly.
the bomb isn't alone, they're going to get fucked up by the nails.
So surprisingly enough, nobody died. Nobody died, which is crazy because even the guy who was carrying the bomb with him did not die. Which
that
is
should
insane,
kind of be a
right?
slap in the
Isn't
face.
That crazy? Now there is and this is how explosive this bomb was. Okay, so I know, pipe bombs, nail bombs, blah blah. This is how explosive this bomb was. This bomb exploded. It blew out windows in all the surrounding buildings. It blasted a parked car across a parking lot, and it sent nails fucking everywhere. As a matter of fact, the guy that they interviewed that told about the crackhead, he actually had been put onto a stretcher because his leg had been embedded with nails, and they were wheeling him off, and he said that he like looked around, and there's actually video of this, because I mean this is the 90s, so there were videos.
Right.
He's getting wheeled off and he starts looking around and he stops the EMT, the medic, from going, and he gets up and he calls to his friend and he's like, come here. His friend helps him. He starts wobbling off and he told the medic, go find somebody who needs that. I can walk and I can get myself to a hospital. There are people who are missing limbs, so please go help them. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's an immediate investigation, and the first thing they do is they start to view as many CCTV footages as they can. Now, it is suspected almost immediately that this was a racially motivated attack due to the area that it happened in.
See, that's interesting because, and maybe it's the time frame too. I feel like nowadays, when you have something like that, like a bomb, especially a bomb attack in like a public setting in a bigger area, its first thought is terrorism.
So,
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong.
Okay, so we'll put this in perspective. That is because we had the Twin Tower situation in
because I think about like the Boston
2001.
bombing.
Okay, so we had that. We didn't have the heightened terrorist attack concerns prior to September 11th because we had not suffered any sort of terrorist attack on United States soil. Now we're talking about the UK here, and here's the thing. It's not because of the bombing. It is because, again, this area was known as being a large black population. Mm-hmm. And when they interviewed people that lived in this area, they made comments, and this makes me sick to my stomach, but they made comments about how if you were black in the UK, that's just where you kind of needed to be. Almost like segregation without saying it's segregation, because it was the fucking 90s. So you would not think that segregation was a big deal, but it was. And again, it's a different country. It's not the same. Every country is different. But in this country, they were talking about how if you were somebody who was black in the UK, this is where you stayed. So the fact that this bomb was put in a market specifically that was predominantly black patrons, there were some white patrons and other people, but majority was black patrons. Their whole entire thought was, it doesn't make sense for any other reason other than to be racially motivated at this moment. Not because it was terrorist. they could have hit so many other places that would have injured and killed a lot more people. So then on April 24th, 1999, so this is the following weekend, on Brick Lane in the East End of London. Now, this area has a very large Bangladesh community. Now, there was a street market on Sundays. However, the bomb was actually left on a Saturday when there were far less people there. Now, this actually caused David to make a change to his plans, because when he went to put this bomb, he went there thinking that their market was on Saturday, not realizing it was on Sunday. And he had already set the bomb up. He had already set it up to go off. So instead of trying to like stop the bomb and reset it or whatever, this led David to make a change to his plan of where he's going to do this. Because again, he's supposed to be on Brick Lane at their farmers market that is mostly Bangladesh community people. However, because the market's not the right day, he actually takes the bag, which all of the bombs were in a black Reebok like backpack. So he takes this bag and he goes to Hanbury Street, and he leaves it on this street because it's a busier street. So he can injure a lot of people, but not as many as he would have had he picked the right day. Now, this man is walking by and sees this Reebok bag on the ground. And he's like, that's weird. So he actually picks this bag up and he brings it to the police station on Brick Lane, because he's like, I don't know if he was like suspicious bag or if he was like somebody lost their shit, like lost and found. Regardless, he didn't open the bag to look inside of it. He just brought it to the police station. However, the police station was closed, so he was not able to give it to the police officers. So what he does instead is he actually takes it and he puts it on the boot or the trunk of his car. And he's like trying to decide what he's going to do with it because he doesn't really know what to do. And the bomb explodes. 13 people were injured by this bomb. Surrounding cars and buildings were severely damaged too. And again, as soon as this happens, they start investigating to find out who the fuck put the bomb there. So they really start taking a look at CCTV, because now...
Oh, shit, they probably think it's that guy.
No, because what they're able to see on CCTV footage is that what they're looking for is, we need to look for people who look similar with a black Reebok backpack that we see. Same way they actually found the Boston Marathon bombers, actually. Mm-hmm. They went through footage and they're looking for somebody who has a backpack, and then you follow that person with a backpack, and then all of a sudden the backpack's gone. That's who you're looking for, right? That's what they were doing. Which also, that's a lot of eyeballs that you have. I mean, you got to look through a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So that's what they're doing. They really start taking a look at CCTV footage from both bombings at this point. Because now they're like, okay, hold on. Last weekend, a bomb went off in a predominantly black neighborhood at a predominantly black market. Now this weekend, we have a bomb that went off in a predominantly Bangladesh community. This is looking very racially motivated. We need to look. So now they're comparing CCTV footage, and they're trying to find people who look similar, who have similar ways of walking, who have, whatever. Because this is also like 1999, where it's like, yeah, we had TV, shit, but it's not like the Ring cameras nowadays. This shit was grainy as fuck.
Facial recognition shit
right
now.
Well, they did have facial recognition. However, the footage of CCTV was always grainy. You just it wasn't the best of quality. So as they're looking through these CCTV footage, they actually see a man in both videos, at both bombings. They see a man who's wearing a white hat and he's carrying a black bag. Now, the CCTV footage back then, because it was really grainy, they could not enhance the footage enough to make an identification of who he was. However, they most definitely were like, I think this is the guy. So this guy is at both bombings, or at least what looks to be the same guy, same body type, same build. He has a black hat in both of them. In both of them, he's wearing a white shirt, and in both of them, he has a black backpack that you see him later in the crowd without the backpack. So we think this is our guy. So they actually do have facial footage of him, but it's so fucking grainy that they actually bring it to forensics to be like, can you enhance this? And they could not find any sort of enhancement. However, one of the things that they should have done, and I agree, one of the people that was on this documentary said this, and I absolutely agree with it. And I would hate to speculate as to why it was not, but based off of the ideas of how it was brought across, it was because it wasn't as important, because it was affecting people of non-white descent. What they should have done is they should have taken that grainy photo and put it into papers and TVs and put it all over the place. Now, a man who lived in the first community, that lived in the first bombing community, had gone to the police department and said, you need to take that footage of his face and you need to plaster it everywhere. And they said, well, no, we can't do that because it's a grainy footage and like, we don't want to cause panic and everybody's going to, first of all, nobody's going to recognize him. He goes, no, you're lying. He said, if that was my brother, I could tell you that was my brother, grainy footage or not. And I agree with him. It was a good enough quality picture that if it was your brother, your uncle, your dad, you probably could have been like, ooh, that looks a lot like Uncle John, right? And so I agree. They should have at least tried. It wouldn't have done anything other than lead them with leads that maybe would have been not worth it. But it was better than sitting on your hands and doing nothing. And that's what they did. So he fought and fought and fought. And he kept saying, like, if you put it out there, somebody who is a family member of this guy will probably recognize him, because while the footage is grainy, there is still details about that guy that you would recognize as your brother. They refused to do it. And the man that was talking about this actually alluded to the fact that it was because the communities that were affected were not white. And to be honest with you, it's probably factual. Yeah, it is really, because there is no other, honestly.
There's no other reason.
They've showed grainy footages for less. So, So then on April 30th, 1999, at the Admiral Duncan pub on Old Compton Street in Soho. Now, this is actually the heart of London's gay community. And this was a very crowded night because it was the beginning of, as they call it, a bank holiday weekend. So like a 3-day weekend. So they were off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So
party time.
Oh yeah. Everybody's out. Everybody's having a good time. There's a couple of people who are like at this bar at the Duncan pub, the Admiral Duncan pub. And they're like, we saw this bag, like this fucking black bag, just like sitting there. And they end up telling like the manager of the Admiral Duncan pub, like, hey, there's this black bag. It's like sitting over there. It's kind of weird. One guy like pushed it with his foot on accident, which is what brought his attention to it. So the club manager, or the pub manager, Mark Taylor, was actually going to look at the bag when the bomb explodes at 6:37 p.m. Now, this bomb actually kills 3 people, injures 79 people, and 4 people had to have their limbs amputated because of this one. Now, the people who were killed were Andrea Dykes. She was 27 and she was 4 months pregnant. Nick Moore, who was 31, and John Light, who was 32. Now, Nick, John, and Andrea were there with Andrea's husband, celebrating, having a good time. So 3 of the group of 4 died. Now, by this time, police have now started to warn communities, telling them like, hey, we have this situation where we have bombs going off into communities that are, I don't even know how
not straight white people.
Basically, like, we think that these bombings,
different ethnicities and gender.
We think these bombings are at the hands of white supremacists. Right. Like, that's basically, so they start telling people like, you need to be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings. Don't, whatever. If you see a bag, if you see something, say something. If you see a bag, run the other way, call the police, whatever. They also are still searching for any sort of evidence, any terrorist groups that could be claiming the bombings. Because, at this point now they're thinking, or it could be terrorism, right? Bombs are, who knows? So they also are looking into different terrorist groups. They are looking to see if there's anybody. Because again, with the terrorism thing, when somebody does something, somebody will come out and claim it and say, oh, that was us. And so they were waiting to see, are people going to claim these? Now, there were some terrorist groups that did come out and actually claimed these bombs.
They always do that, though.
And they started to look into it. I was like, no, you didn't. Like, we can tell you right now, no, you didn't.
Because isn't that what happened with 9/11 here? And even the Boston Marathon stuff, where it was like, it was multiple groups had said, that was us.
Yeah,
that was us.
And
it
why?
Was like, no,
and why do they do that? Because they want to try to flex their muscles. You know,
you want to try to start war.
You want to make it seem a thing. Shit. So that's why you do your things. So yeah, but they could tell based off how the bombs were made that these are not like terrorist organization bombs. So they continue to study,
or the CCTV stuff. I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you figure
said the picture was grainy, but I'm just saying.
You figure the Boston Marathon runner guys, they were found by CCTV footage as well, and they were not linked to have any terrorist affiliations until they interviewed, because you didn't know. based off who they were. But it was assumed that it was terrorism, but they wouldn't know what terrorist group they were trying to be a part of, or homegrown terrorists, or they didn't know. So same thing.
I'm sure they also have to think about like during that time, like who were you kind of having beef with? You know what I mean?
Well, and it's England. I don't know what England was doing in 1999. I just know that in 1999, I was graduating high school and we were worried about Columbine shootings. That's what we were worried about. We were worried about school shootings. But I mean, each country had its own issues. Like in 1999 is really when the school shooting started for the United States. So it was like,
hasn't fucking stopped.
That's where, for me, I just remember in my 1999, I remember the whole Columbine shooting. That was like the big standout for me.
Right.
So the police continue to study CCTV footage, and as they're going, so now, okay, again, so they're basically comparing, and they know kind of what they're looking for. So they're looking through these footages for a man with a white hat on.
That basically matches their description.
Yes, that matches somehow,
as best as they know,
with a backpack on, blah blah blah. They find somebody who resembles the man from the first two CCTV footage videos, and they follow him. They follow him on every source of CCTV footage they can, including personal cameras. They start going to stores. They go to gas stations and they're like, let us look at your videos. Let us. Now they're like, at this point, they're following this guy's every move, because their thought was, if we follow him, because they can find him with the backpack and then they find him without. So they're like, if we can follow him, maybe we'll be able
to catch it before it goes off.
And maybe we'll get a good face shot. That's what they were thinking. Maybe an up close face shot, right? So there's a part where he's walking. I looked like a store to me. I don't really know where he was, but he like turns, and clear as day, you have a picture of his face at that point. Finally are able to identify who this guy is. So and it wasn't CCTV footage. It was actually like I said, it was like a store or something where they actually were able to see this guy's face. So on May 1st, 1999, police show up at David's house. Now, he opens the door and he literally tells them, yep, it was me. I set off the bombs. That's literally what he tells them when he opens the door. And he actually just says, not only was it me, but I did it by myself. I have no political affiliations. This was not done for any political reasons. Like, this was me, myself, and I. And actually, when they looked into it, both the British National Party and the other one that he had joined, the Socialist Party, neither one of them, they had no knowledge, supposedly, of any of this shit that he was going to do. As a matter of fact, there was a man that was in the documentary that was an undercover British Nationalist Party person, meaning that he was undercover, not really part of the British National Party, but he was in there undercover, and he actually knew this guy, and he had said, like, yeah, they definitely wanted to cause violence, but nothing like what he did. Like, it was different. It was very different what he did. So there was also an article that I read that said that there was an informant as well, like an anonymous informant who came forward and said, yeah, this is the guy who did it, and kind of gave them some information too, which I actually almost wonder is how they made that positive identification. It's almost like they put out there who this guy was, and then they had somebody anonymously come forward and say, oh no, I know that guy. Mm-hmm. Now, while he was being interrogated, he actually tells them, my main intent was to spread fear, resentment, and hatred throughout this country. It was to cause a racial war. That is literally what he tells them when he's being interviewed.
Listen, shitty person, but at least you're honest.
He's like a fucking Manson, because that's what Manson did too. Manson wanted to start a fucking racial war.
At least you're fucking honest.
So he was put on trial, of course, and David was actually seen by 5 psychiatrists at Broadmoor Hospital, which Broadmoor is a psychiatric facility, a high security psychiatric facility. So when he was arrested, that's where he was put, because obviously somebody who does this kind of shit is probably not in their mental right mind. So they put him there.
Especially not being tied to a terrorist organization.
Right. Well, and even if you are tied to a terrorist organization, typically you're
fucked up in the brain.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying,
so
like,
you probably have some issues anyways.
I feel like it almost piques more interest because he's not brainwashed by a terrorist organization.
He was seen by a total of 6 psychiatrists while he was at Broadmoor. 5 of them actually diagnosed him as paranoid schizophrenia. Diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. And one of them actually diagnosed him as, yes, he has a personality disorder, but it is not a personality disorder that would be serious enough to avoid a murder charge. Meaning, yes, he does have something wrong with him, but we don't use mental health as an excuse for bad behavior. That's basically what he said. Which I'm like, right on, sucker, you're my kind of psychiatrist. But yeah, basically he's like, yeah, like, but he knew what he was doing.
He's not fucked up in the brain enough to completely say insanity.
Exactly. He's not fucked up in the brain enough to not take the accountability.
He still knows what he's doing.
Exactly. Now, he did try to plead not guilty to manslaughter. So he wanted to drop the charges from murder down to manslaughter. And his grounds of that was because of diminished responsibility based on mental capacity, meaning that he was saying, I may not be insane, but I have issues, mental issues, and therefore I should not be held at a full responsibility for
me too, but you don't see me
people.
bombing people. The fuck?
However, that manslaughter plea was not accepted by the courts.
I would have been like, fuck off.
They were like, fuck your 5 psychiatrists that say that you have paranoid schizophrenia, and no thank you. Like, nope. So part of the reason, now there is actually a reason. I know people are probably like, well, that's really fucked up, because I thought that was the whole point of the insanity plea. It is. However, there is a reason why the insanity plea did not hold, even with 5 diagnoses of paranoid schizophrenia. And here's why. So while he was in Broadmoor waiting to go to trial, okay, so he's waiting to go to trial, he is exchanging letters with a fan named Patsy. So this woman, Patsy is writing him letters, and she's fangirling over him, which gross. But anyways, and they were writing for quite some time. Like, she started writing to him within a couple days of him being in jail. I think it's messed up what they're doing to you. This doesn't seem okay, that kind of stuff. They start to share a lot of different kinds of information. She describes what she looks like to him. He describes, or she knows what he looks like. And she's like, I think you're handsome. He ends up telling her, oh, I think you sound very pretty. They kind of have this little romance, right? It actually ends up that Patsy is not really Patsy. Patsy is actually a crime writer for a local newspaper named Bernard O'Mahony. And what he's doing is he's pretending to be a female in hopes of getting David to confess to his crimes, because David is not confessing that he's not mentally insane, right? And he did not believe that he had suffered mental illness like he's claiming. So his whole point was, I'm going to try something, because in the past they've had this happen too. And he's like, I'm going to try and just trick him. And lo and behold, it worked. So after corresponding for a while, in one of the letters, David actually tells Patsy, I can't believe how easily I have fooled these doctors, and I am so amazed at how much they believe my lies. So this is why he brought that to the courts, and they were like, the fuck you are. Like, no, sir, you're not getting out for any sort of mental issues. So on June 30th, 2000, David Copeland is actually found guilty of 3 counts of murder and planting the bombs. He was given 6 life sentences. The judge in the trial actually said that he doubts it will ever be safe to release David from jail.
I agree.
Then in March 2nd, 2007, the High Court decided that David should remain in prison for at least 50 years. So they overturned his sentence from 6 life sentences to, excuse me, you need to stay in prison for at least 50 years. Meaning that his earliest release date would be 2049, and he would be 3 years old when this release happens. Then on June 28th, 2011, David actually appeals the sentence, the 50-year sentence. He wants less time because, again, he wants manslaughter. The Court of Appeals actually upholds his ruling, and he still has, the earliest you can ever get out is 2049. And I really think in 2049, he's not getting out. I don't think that he'll ever get out because he's not being, he lies, basically. In June 2014, David actually attacks a fellow inmate at HM Prison Belmarsh with a shiv.
Well, it's definitely not going to get you early release.
Exactly. And then in October 2015, he actually pleads guilty to wounding with the intent to kill, and was sentenced to 3 more years in prison on top.
So 53.
Now, the last thing that I can find out about David Copeland as of today is that he is still serving his sentence, although he is actually in a prison called HM Prison Franklin. And this prison has actually been nicknamed the Monster Mansion. And it is because most of the inmates who serve in that prison are murderers.
Oh, it's like they're Alcatraz.
It is.
But not like on an island and shit.
Yes. It is.
It's supposed to hold the worst of the worst or whatever.
Most of the inmates there are murderers, high-risk sex offenders, and terrorist-related offenses. So that's why he's there, because he's a terrorist.
I hope it's one hell of a place.
It doesn't seem, with the nickname Monster Mansion, I'm assuming that shit is not very good, but you don't deserve anything better than that. So,
if anything, you deserve worse than that.
Yeah, I agree. So this is all I know. Take it for what you will. he deserved to be talked about, not because he's cool or anything, because he's absolutely not.
He's a joke of a human.
But he deserved to be talked about so that people can understand that fucking shitty people exist everywhere. Not just in the damn United States. It's everywhere.
Racism also is everywhere.
And it's trash.
States.
And it's fucking trash. Dumb. Trashy fucking people. That's all I'm going to say about that. Trashy fucking people. But he's a garbage pail kid and he's going to die in prison most likely. And I think that's fabulous. That's all I'm going to say. One other thing, and then we're going to let you go. If you made it through this wonderful episode, we appreciate you. We are thankful for all your support. If you made it through this episode and you feel that we just don't have it because you don't like the way we speak, that is totally fine. At any time, you can just turn that shit off. You don't have to listen. We are who we are. And I'm saying this specifically in response to a comment we received on our YouTube that somebody didn't like how much we cussed. And you know what? I apologize to you wholeheartedly that you chose to click play. I'm not, the only thing I'm apologizing for is that you subjected your ears to our stuff without you wanting, like, it's not for you. Thank you for those of you who listen. And again, everybody has a right to their own opinion, which is why if you go onto that YouTube and you'll see that comment forever, because I'm not going to block comments because I think that's weird. I think everybody has a right to their opinion. You have a right to not listen at any time. So I do appreciate you real ones out there, though, who stick with us, because sometimes Sierra can be a little much. We know. Sierra's mouth is the reason we have to be explicit.
Yeah, I get yelled at in public by my own parents.
Because she's disrespectful. No, I'm just kidding. I know I swear too, people. I understand. It's a joke. I wasn't really blaming Sierra because we both do this. But yeah, I mean, this is just us. And so all I'm going to say to that is we will be us, you be you. And if we don't mesh, peace out. I was trying to make it a rhyme of some sort, but I can't. So peace out, and glad you gave us a try. Anyways, other than that, if you did like this episode or any of the episodes that you've heard us do, if you like what we say, if you like how we talk, if you like that we're real and raw and unfiltered, keep following. And if you're not following, click the follow, because then you'll get reminded every Tuesday when we open up a new episode, which will come every Tuesday. We have our socials. Again, we have an Instagram and a TikTok. Follow us on those too, so you can get updates also that way, or you can interact with us if you have anything you want to talk to us about. Specifically, DM or email. I am the one who runs all that, and I would love to sit down and have conversations with people about the stuff we talk about. It's my favorite thing to do. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say. Then thank you so much for listening to the episode of the shitty man who created the fucking 1999 nail bombings. This is the part where I'm going to tell you. Catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.